Our apologies for a slight delay in coming here. We were giving a tour for our friends from Seattle. I would like to once again extend a warm welcome to our distinguished colleagues and friends from the Seattle University. We have with us the president of the Seattle University, Professor Eduardo Penalvar, who gave a beautiful lecture this afternoon on academic freedom and the future of universities. And now we have Professor Anthony Varona, who's the Dean of the Seattle University Law School, who's going to be speaking about the larger context of American legal education. As some of you know, we already have a very strong and substantive partnership with the Seattle University's Law School. Our goal is to expand and deepen that relationship within the law school, but also to look at other schools of the university. For the students who are present here, I can tell you that I had a very good visit to the Seattle University Law School, and I felt that it's one of those outstanding institutions that we have not explored adequately. And I would like to see several of our students looking at Seattle University as an aspirational institution for pursuing your LLM program. They have a very strong focus on several critical aspects of a good LLM program, including on issues surrounding intellectual property rights, technology, innovation, and the whole aspect surrounding law and economics. So many aspects of the school is of great interest. They are one of those schools which also have a very comprehensive approach towards legal education, and I'm sure Dean will speak more about it. I want to say that among the many institutions that our students end up going for higher studies, I would consider Seattle University Law School as one of the most outstanding and truly impressive institutions that we should have an aspiration. We are implementing the student exchange program and dual degree program and pathways LLM program and things like that, which will enable several of our students. Seattle itself is a very wonderful city to be a student, and that's also something that you should consider. So with those words, I'm going to request Dean Varona to begin his talk. Thank you.
Raj, thank you so very much. It's such an honor for me to be here. It's been a delight, really, to be in India for the first time. I've been looking forward to visiting this beautiful country for many, many years, and so I'm having a really wonderful time. And I was able to meet Raj very early on in my deanship. I've only been dean for a few months at Seattle U Law, and meeting with him was one of the first official duties that I undertook with our Associate Dean for International and Graduate Programs, who happens to be one of the only Indian American, I think maybe even the only Indian American Associate Dean for International Studies in all of the US, Sheetal Kalantri. And Sheetal, I think, was here, right, as a fellow. So it's an honor for me to be here. What I'd like to do is really spend just maybe 15 minutes or so, 15 or 20 minutes talking, but then open up a good conversation with you and have a good dialogue, invite questions, comments, etc., so that we could have a really good conversation. But first, I just wanted to let you all know that from my perspective, you are incredibly fortunate to have a leader like Vice Chancellor Kumar. He is a visionary. He is quite the academic entrepreneur in the best sense of that term. He is not only serving you very, very well here at Jindal Global, but he is building a phenomenal, preeminent reputation globally as a leader in higher ed and legal ed. So you're all very, very fortunate, and we're also fortunate to call him a friend and a key colleague and key partner with us at Seattle U. One of the reasons why I'm very excited about this partnership and the fact that the first memorandum of understanding that we signed during my deanship was with Raj, was with Jindal Global, was because there is so much commonality between our two institutions. We are creative, we are forward-looking, we are about innovation, the future, social justice, public interest, access, right? And so we have all of that in common. We also have in common interdisciplinarity. This is something that Raj and I have talked about at some length, and so we are finding ways to build ties, to build bridges, to knock down walls, and so we could certainly talk about that. So my task is to talk about American legal education and opportunity for Indian students. And so the only modification that I would have to that title is that this is an excellent opportunity, not just for Indian students, but for American students also to get to know Indian students. So I wanted to be clear that I would be adding that reflective quality or reflexive quality to my comments. Before I get into my remarks, though, I wanted to follow up on President Peñalver's excellent lecture. Raise your hand if you attended his lecture a while ago. Okay, so many of you have. I completely agree with his views on academic freedom and responses to cancel culture. And one of the things that I tell my students all the time, law students all the time, is that as law students, we need to, I consider myself a law student still, we need to be open to divergent viewpoints. This is what law is all about, right? How to engage with disagreeing opinions, disagreeing positions, so that we could get to the truth, so that we could discern reality, discern facts, discern the truth, and how to apply law to facts accurately, fairly, in a just way, so that we could bridge the gap between law and justice, right? So in order to do that equitably, we need to make sure that we have a command of the facts, command on the truth. So one of the things that I like to share with my students that have concerns about certain speakers, certain opinions, certain voices not being heard, or that they don't want to hear from a certain activist or a certain advocate, is that I share that I, as an openly gay leader and someone who was the general counsel of the Human Rights Campaign for 5 years, many years ago, at a very critical point of the LGBTQ movement in the US, one of the things that we learned, that I certainly learned firsthand, was that what we called the love that dare not speak its name, right? Homosexuality, was at the heart of a lot of scholarship, a lot of academic freedom exercise. A lot of professors spoke about homosexuality, spoke about sexuality, spoke about human rights in the context of LGBTQ rights in their classes, in their scholarship, in ways often that hurt them. But it was because of academic freedom that they were able to explore these topics. And so when we are asked in the US how it is that in the course of about 30 years, we went from having LGBTQ people criminalized, pathologized, and condemned, right? So the health authorities were calling us ill. The legal authorities were penalizing us as de facto categorical criminals, right? And religious authorities were condemning us to hell, essentially. Much of that, if not all of that, has changed, and a lot of it has changed because we engaged with the topics. We explored the truth. We got to the truth by means of the exercise of academic freedom. The other thing that I share with my students is that in my experience as an LGBTQ lawyer, and an activist in that, a lawyer activist in that movement, one of the ways that we accelerated the marriage equality movement in the US was not by silencing our opponents, but by engaging with them. So I was one of many lawyer activists who would go on television and have debates, have conversations with, or I would go to conferences and we would have debates with people who were saying that I was condemned to hell, that I shouldn't be able to get married, that homosexuality is the equivalent to pedophilia, you know, the blood libel, the slander, right? And so we were able to dispel all of that by engaging, by enabling our opponents to make their arguments known, so that in the light of day, the best argument, the strongest argument, surfaced. And so that's what happened. And in the United States, many of us now are able to get legally married in large part because we did not buy into cancel culture. We rejected cancel culture. And the same can be true for many civil rights movements in the US and globally. The disability rights movement, the reproductive justice movement, the anti-racism movement. The most prominent advocates in those movements will tell you that cancel culture is not the way to go, and that what we need to do is have debates, have conversations, so that the strongest arguments prevail. So I applaud President Peñalver for his brilliant lecture, and just thought that I would offer those 2 points from my own experience. All right, so American legal education, an opportunity for Indian students. What I'm going to do is organize my thoughts in a bit of an inverse cone, right? So first, why American or international legal education is valuable for Indian students, and reflexively, how it is that your presence in the United States is valuable for American students. So I will talk about that first. And then why don't we talk about why studying in the United States remains a valuable experience for Indian students. Then why studying in Seattle, so we're closing in, right? Why studying in Seattle is a major advantage for Indian students. And then why studying at Seattle University, and I say this, of course, as the Dean of Seattle University School of Law, is a great benefit to Indian students. So first, let's talk about why American or international cross-border legal education is important. Again, not just for Indian students, but for all law students. Well, number one, particularly between Indian students and American students, Indian students are some of the most successful graduate law students in the United States. Number one, you speak English better than most American students. So you have a glorious command of the English language, and many of you, most of you, speak it in such an elegant way, and are able to jump right in and succeed at legal writing and legal reasoning in many ways that other international students in the U.S. struggle. We have never before been in a position, I think, of such need for international, interculturally aware and qualified and talented lawyers. We need lawyers like you who are internationally savvy, have international intercultural wherewithal, particularly in this world today, at this moment, where so many vexing problems that we face as humanity, as a society, have to do with law. The environment, immigration, civil rights, human rights, how we define democracy. This is something that Raj and I were talking about several months ago, that even the term democracy is now contested, right? Many countries claim to be democracies. My home country, Cuba, and the country of President Peñalver's roots, Cuba, says that it is the people's democracy. It is a people's democracy, when it's actually a totalitarian communism, right? So it is up to interculturally aware, internationally competent lawyers to police important definitions of terms like democracy, republicanism in the true sense of that word, human rights. What does justice truly mean? What does equity mean? Right? So much of the challenges that we face as a society are today cross-border challenges. The environment, trade, commerce, cryptocurrencies, intellectual property, patent, trademark, copyright. I can go on and on. Consumer protection, right? We have reached a point as a society where borders matter in some ways, but they do not matter in so many other ways. So we need our lawyers to be cross-cultural, to be international in that truest sense. So again, we need lawyers like you to be interculturally aware and to have exposure to other countries. And we need American law students to be exposed to talented become colleagues and friends with talented, brilliant students and future lawyers like you. Okay, so why studying in the United States remains a valuable experience for Indian students. I told you about how Indian students tend to do particularly well in graduate legal programs throughout the US. We share a common law tradition, right? India is the largest democracy in the world, and the United States is the oldest continuous democracy. So we are sibling nations in a very real way. We both, and this goes back to President Peñalver's lecture, we both value academic freedom very, very much as academic cultures. And many law schools in the US do a very good job of respecting and promoting academic freedom and the free exchange of ideas. We are one of those schools, and in large part that's because we are a Jesuit Catholic law school. If you know anything about Jesuit legal education, it is very open to debate, to engaging difficult topics, to ecumenicalism, to openness to differing views. Only about a quarter of our students at SU are Catholic. We have students from all walks of life, all faiths, and that adds to the rich diversity of our campus. So why studying in Seattle is a major advantage for Indian students? Well, number one, the state of Washington, in which Seattle finds ourselves, is rated the best state in the United States in which to live and study for many, many, many reasons. It is very diverse, it is progressive, it is both cosmopolitan, but also has riches in natural resources that are unparalleled. If you wanted to ski, to have the ocean, to go to the mountains, to hike, to bike, to whatever you would like, while still availing yourselves of a cosmopolitan metropolis, Seattle is your town. It is the city of the future. It is the city that is home. It is the global capital of innovation, of creative disruption. It is the city of the future. And our law school, Seattle University, is in the heart of the city. We are within walking distance to many of the corporations that are the most future-oriented corporations of the world. Amazon, Google has a major presence close to us, major manufacturing companies, Boeing, I can go on and on. T-Mobile has a huge presence. Obviously, Microsoft is within a stone's throw. And one of the advantages of, let me go to why studying at Seattle University is a major advantage to Indian students. We have one of the strongest experiential law programs in the U.S., consistently ranked in the top 20. We have an extraordinarily strong externship program. So if you are interested in studying law, in part by having an externship at Microsoft, at Amazon, at Starbucks, name that major corporation that's within an easy walk or commute from campus, then Seattle University School of Law is the place to go. We also have strengths curricularly at Seattle U Law, and I brought for you these brochures that we could pass around, and these little thumb drives with applications and other. The brochure is on these, so please feel free to take these. But we have one of the strongest legal writing programs in the entire U.S. We have just launched an international program. We are in the process of launching a very strong environmental program, leveraging strengths that we already have, but we are now programmatizing. So around criminal law, tech and the law, intellectual property, health law, and the list goes on and on and on. Again, these are strengths that we already have, but what I'm trying to do is leverage them into programs. We have just launched our new SJD program, which I could certainly talk with you about. That's the legal PhD. In the US, I think you might be familiar with this, but let me spend a minute talking about the 3 major degrees that are typical in most major US law schools. There's the basic professional 3-year Juris Doctorate. So that is for students who graduate from a 4-year undergraduate degree and then wish to go on to be practicing lawyers. So they enroll in a 3-year Juris Doctorate program. After that program, or for foreign students who have completed their Bachelor of Laws in countries like India and many others, they can then enroll in a 1-year LLM program. And so we have an LLM program that is very innovative, and it's an excellent program that has 2 optional foci for you. One, in tech and the law, to leverage the fact that we are in the heart of Seattle, the global tech hub, or a general LLM that is suited more for American legal studies as an introduction to American law. Another major advantage of studying law at Seattle U Law is that we are one of only 5 states in which a foreign student can come, complete an LLM degree, and then sit for the bar exam. Now, does this mean that you'll be able to automatically pass the bar at the first attempt? No, right? So we will definitely work with you in doing all we can to get you prepared in 1 year to pass the bar. But you have that option. So if you are particularly motivated and are hardworking and are ready to do what is necessary to prepare well to pass to take the bar after your LLM year and to pass it on that first try, then we will help you do that. And in Washington State, you are able to do that. There are only a few other states that allow that. California, New York, Wisconsin, and Georgia are the other 4 states. We also have the SJD program. So if you already have or are completing an LLM here at Jindal and would like to have, or you have completed your LLM elsewhere and would like to have an SJD, because you would like to, say, serve on a bench or advance an academic career, we have just launched that degree program. It's a legal PhD, it's scholarship-based, and the focal point is completion of a dissertation. A couple of other things that set Seattle University School of Law apart is our cura personalis Jesuit pedagogical orientation. We educate the whole person. We have a focus on social justice. We make sure that we pay attention to ethics, that ethics are a central part of our pedagogical mission and our curricular offerings. And we make sure that we have an environment at the law school that is very conducive to productivity. We are welcoming of diversity. We are empowering of all of our students. And so it's a really exciting place to be. The last thing that I will say, a few things that I will say about our law school is that over the last 4 months, we've been working very, very hard in building upon our strengths. So we've been hiring quite a number of very prominent faculty members over the last few months who will be joining us, adding to the 4 new faculty members that we hired last year. I won't go through each of the bios, but these are really very impressive people. We're bringing in somebody from the Yale Law School PhD program. We have hired again, thank you so much, Professors Richard Delgado and Jean Stefancic, who are the godparents of critical race theory in the US, and the leading scholars in that area. Thank you so much. We stole away a very prominent professor from the University of Florida, just hired somebody from Boston University. So there are a lot of faculty from all over the US who want to come to Seattle regionally, but specifically Seattle University for many of the reasons that I have just shared with you. A couple of other things. The Thomson Reuters publishers, the people who put out LexisNexis, the legal publishers, rate lawyers at the top of their fields, 70 fields. And the top 5% of those fields are known as super lawyers. And we discovered a few months ago that Seattle University graduates by far the highest number of super lawyers in the entire Pacific Northwest. than any other law school. We are, as I mentioned to you, leading as one of the top law schools in the U.S. in experiential ed, legal writing, and tech and the law. So we're building on those strengths. And finally, we are bringing luminaries in law to our campus as just an example of some of those. I just interviewed a few weeks ago the General Counsel of Amazon. I'll be interviewing the General Counsel of Starbucks in January, bringing in very, very prominent scholars. And we do this in order for our students, our LLM students too, and our SJD students to be able to network with the top lawyers in the US and top scholars for your benefit. The very last thing that I will say is that the National Jurist magazine, we're very happy to see that they ranked us number 5 of the 197 US law schools in anti-racism and racial justice law, and also gave us A grades in business law and criminal law, and a top grade in tax, which goes to show that we have a very balanced curriculum. And finally, in the brochure, you will be able to learn more about our 2 LLM programs, and we are very excited that we have now an LLM Pathway Memorandum of Understanding with Jindal Global, thanks to Raj, and our new Associate Dean for International Law, which provides an opportunity for you to complete your undergraduate studies here and then go right into your LLM in a very efficient way. And part of that MOU is also a really exciting exchange program for our students at both institutions. We're also looking to exchange faculty too. So part of this visit really is to kick off some of those activities. So that's some overview from me. I'm eager to hear from you though, your questions, comments, concerns. And I, again, thank you very, very much for the very warm welcome. And I look forward to welcoming some of you at Seattle.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony, for that fantastic introduction. So I want to add a few things from what Tony said. But first I want to say, Tony, that this agreement that we negotiated, I want to pay rich tribute to my colleague, Professor Srijit, the Executive Dean of the Law School, Professor Malvika Seth, the Associate Dean of the Law School, focusing on international relations, her team of other colleagues who have been instrumental in working to make sure that that happens. For the students who are present here, I hope you know what's a Pathways LLM. Essentially what it does is, while you are a final year student in one of our programs, you have the opportunity to go and pursue a LLM program at Seattle University, and at the end of that, you end up getting both these degrees, and you save time and of course resources. It's a fascinating opportunity, and I hope that several of you take it. Now today is a very important day for another reason. We are welcoming a small bunch of students, a cohort of students who have joined our 3-year LLB program. These are students who have joined as a late entrant into this academic year because they were taking up another entrance examination by the Delhi University, and on that basis we have selected them. So they are literally days into our campus. So you will be the first person from abroad who has spoken to them. I want to extend a warm welcome to all our 3-year LLB students. This is like your JD program, the graduate law program. First year. Yes.
Wow.
So can you all raise your hand
if you're, wow,
yeah,
excellent.
That's great. Well, welcome. You know, we have a very thriving 3-year LLB program. Every year we admit around 300 students. And so they are part of that small group of students. Then we have the BA Honors in Criminology and Criminal Justice students who are also present here. All right, so I'm going to shortly leave, and I'm going to request Srijit to chair the rest of the proceedings. But I want to add a couple of things. One is that today, more than ever before, there is a natural aspiration for a lot of Indian law students to pursue LLM programs abroad. And given all the opportunities that we have around the world, we have strongly believed that US legal education has a unique set of advantages, but also the kind of opportunities it presents itself for Indian students is simply amazing. Many of us are products of that legal education, and it continues to help us believe in the American model of higher education. A lot of it we drew inspiration from when we started the Jindal Global Law School. The second thing which I would say is that when you make your choices about where you want to study your LLM program, it's important for you to keep in mind that one of our good partner institutions should be considered because they have a stronger presence of JGU and JGLS in their campus, and many a time the faculty members have had prior interaction with our students, and our faculty members are also deeply connected to it. You cannot imagine how important this is as you go through your journey in any law school anywhere in the world, and that's another reason why I would say you should consider. And the third reason why Seattle University Law School is important is that many a time, as young students who are thinking about higher studies abroad, you may not keep in mind that sometimes, and many a time, the city where you study LLM program becomes very important for fulfilling your aspirations. And I'll give you a very simple example. I studied at Harvard Law School, did my LLM there. Of course, Harvard is a big brand or whatever. But I can tell you that there are strategic advantages for students in Seattle, New York, maybe even San Francisco, because you have greater opportunities to be invited for an interview in these law firms or companies or whatever, because to get somebody from Boston to any of these places is a bit of an effort for the firms, for them to bring them. So these are things, nuances, which one doesn't understand till one is actually into the system. So that way Seattle has an amazing advantage. I hope you know that it is where Amazon and Microsoft and I just heard Nintendo and Boeing, of course. So it is like at Starbucks. It's kind of a well-kept secret that it is the global headquarters of so many large multinational corporations, tech companies, which are at the forefront of innovation using both technology and then the issues that are coming out of it, including regulation, policy, governance, ethics, compliance, privacy. All these things are shaping the future of these businesses, and lawyers, I believe, will have a very big role to play. So with those words, I'm going to throw it open for discussion, and we are very fortunate that Dean Verona is here, and he'll be happy to take questions. So over to you, Sri.
Thank you, Raj, so much. Let me also add that Sheetal Kalantri, our Associate Dean for International Programs at Seattle U Law, was a Fulbright Fellow here at Jindal Global. So when Raj talks about the importance and the strategic advantage for you to have Jindal Global faculty at Seattle U Law, she's an excellent example of someone who was on the faculty here who is now leading our LLM program there. The other thing is that as you may have heard us say in other fora, Seattle itself has become a capital for the Indian American population, for natives from India, from South Asia, who now live in the U.S. Seattle has been a beacon for them, largely because of the tech sector and the corporate sector. There are many Indian American leaders and lawyers in that sector. So you will feel very much at home in Seattle. So questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, thank you, Dean Verona. I'll open the floor for discussions now, and Professor Dean Verona has already given enough food for thought, which might prompt more questions. He conveyed this so beautifully that Seattle is a microcosm of the global. So you have the global imagination. Sonipat may not be the global imagination unfolding before you, but indeed Seattle is. So over to you. Questions?
Please don't be shy.
Yeah. Please raise your hands and shoot the question.
Yes, please.
So can you give an idea about
Yes, we have scholarships available, and in fact, a very prominent Indian American family in Seattle has funded one of the scholarship funds that we now have available for LLM students. So we have varying scholarship levels. Several of them are a 50% scholarship off of our base tuition. There are other scholarships available. So we would definitely be able to work with you on figuring out an aid package that makes sense for you. Was that a hand back there? No? Ah, okay. Other thoughts, questions?
Yes, let more questions come. So I'm sure those who are studying BA Criminology, you definitely might have questions about your own prospects in Seattle to do a JD or a master's program in legal studies.
And feel free to ask about anything, where our students live, what they do in the off time, fun things to do in Seattle, how we lose weight in Seattle. It seems like you all have very, very good weight, and despite the fact that you eat so wonderfully. I've gained about 5 pounds over the last day and a half.
And one thing, the good takeaway from this is that Professor Varona has not only spoken about what are the commonalities between us at the institutional surface, but also what lies deep down in terms of the common culture, the common inquisitive spirit, the common idea of global, which we all share. So that's what I said. You've got plenty of food for thought, which might prompt more questions.
We could talk about curriculum, some of the courses that we offer. I could talk to you about the faculty, anything you'd like.
Yes. Yeah, there's a question there.
Is there an entrance exam that we have to pass to enroll in the LLM?
There is no entrance exam. That's a very, very good question. For the JD program, there is. So for the base professional 3-year degree program, the Juris Doctorate, we require that you take either the LSAT or the GRE. But for the LLM, there is no entrance exam. You would just have to complete an application and a personal statement. We are still figuring out whether we will be doing interviews for every candidate. I think right now we are offering interviews, so if you'd like an interview, we will interview you. We might make them mandatory down the road, but no, there is no entrance exam requirement.
So we can do LLP over here and then we can do LLM over there.
Yes, yep, indeed.
And through your pathway that you complete 2 years of LLB in Jindal Global Law School and move through the pathway to the JD program.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a question.
So after we do the LLP over here and go for LLM to Seattle, let's say, and then we take the bar exam, are we eligible to practice in US?
Yes. So if you take the bar exam and pass it, so this is a very important thing to understand. Not everybody passes the bar exam at their first attempt. Many LLM students do pass it at their first attempt. Many do not and have to take it again, and sometimes have to take it for a third time. A lot depends on the seriousness with which they prepare. A lot of it depends on language ability. In my experience, Indian students and other students from countries where English is one of the primary languages do not have the language difficulties that some of the other LLM students have. The challenges for those English native or English dominant students who are in the LLM program is mostly completing their LLM studies and then going right into studying for the bar. That's a lot of work in just 1 year. So sometimes they need a little bit more time. But when they sit for the bar and pass it, the bar exam is offered twice per year, once in July and again in February. Once they pass it, you become a licensed attorney in the state of Washington and therefore are able to practice law as an American lawyer. There are ways for you to practice law as a foreign lawyer in certain very, very, very limited contexts, depending on practice area, and practice field without a bar license. But the best way to do it is to have an actual American bar license. Bar licenses are given by the states, by the various states, 50 states and certain territories. But only those 5 states allow for foreign lawyers to sit for the bar after an LLM. And those are Washington, so our state, and those 4 other states. Yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am?
So if you're looking forward, for example, Seattle, so you'll be organizing the hostel relationship stuff along with the academics, right?
Say that one more time. Sorry, I didn't hear the last part of your question.
So I'm asking you that if we get
Yes.
enrolled into your college,
Yeah.
so you will be organizing all our residential as well as hotel stuff, including it, right? We have to coordinate with some other agency or something affiliated to your university for our residence and everything.
We help you. So with physical residence, we have an office that helps you locate housing. We also have an international students office that helps you with visas and with all of the logistics of becoming an international student at Seattle U. So it's since we have quite a few international students in Seattle U and in the United States, we tend to do a pretty good job of welcoming you into these various programs. So no, you will not feel alone. You will not have to do it all by yourself. We will help you throughout the entire process. Thank you.
Well, the concept of hostel is very Indian or probably South Asian, that wherever you go to study abroad, you have to find your place. You get support from many institutions.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
I
very, very,
misunderstood.
very Indian. There's a question here.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask about the foreign exchange program. Can we go there for a semester?
Yes. So that is part of the memorandum of understanding that we have signed with Jindal Global, and so there will be opportunities announced soon where you will be able to come to Seattle University for a semester of study while you are a student here, and we will be sending Seattle University students from Seattle to here, to study here. So we are very excited about that. And we're not only exchanging students, but we're also going to be exchanging faculty members. So you will be able to have the opportunity to take a course from a Seattle University professor here in your bachelor's program. And hopefully there will be faculty members from Jindal Global at Seattle U as part of the exchange.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be briefing you more about those opportunities.
Yes.
It's your day 1.
We are setting them up now.
Yeah, here. There's a question.
So, hi.
Hello.
My name is Sahib Noor, and I'm the assistant dean for collaboration.
Good.
And
Wonderful.
I was the one responsible for organizing the session because of the lunch.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
And so I'm taking care of most of their queries once they're settled into the university. But the question I get the most about US schools,
Yes.
and more specifically Seattle, because it tends to sort of pique the curiosity of every kid who wants to leave India and practice outside, is the ease of switching from studying into practice.
Yes.
And while you mentioned how there is assistance available, the other issue then becomes finding a reason to stay back in the US after
Yes.
your LLM is complete and
Yeah.
before you're able to give the bar exam.
Yes.
And I think the only way out is the OPT. So the question people often ask me is how much will Seattle University help us in sort of getting those opportunities to get an optional practical training?
Sure, yeah.
And how do we go about it? Do we start planning today or
Yeah.
do we get there and then start?
It's a great question. One of the competitive advantages that we have, which I am very excited about as the dean of the law school, is that we have such a strong experiential learning program and such a fantastic externship program. So we have externships that are available for all of our students, the JD students, the LLM students, throughout the Seattle area and in many parts of the US and even Alaska, Hawaii, so outside of the contiguous 48 too. But in Seattle proper and the Seattle area, we have hundreds of externship opportunities, many of them in corporations like Microsoft, Boeing, Starbucks, but also at major law firms, at major nonprofits, at major NGOs who are based in the Seattle area, but also Washington, D.C. So if you are interested in being one of those international LLM students who wishes to end up at in the US as a practicing lawyer there, we will work with you in giving you the resources that you will need in order to succeed on that mission, right? Now, again, I want to be very clear with you that there is no guarantee that you're going to pass the bar on the first try or the second try. It's very important for me to make that clear. It's going to take a lot of hard work for you to sit for the bar after 1 year of an LLM and pass it, right? Do some LLM students pass it on the first? Yes, many do, but there is no guarantee. But if that's what you want to do, we will work hard with you in making sure that you are as successful as you can be. There are many international students who complete an American LLM with no intention of sitting for the bar and becoming an American lawyer. Their goal is to get an LLM and to go back to their home country and practice as a lawyer in their home country, right? I would say that most of the LLM students with whom I have worked at American University, University of Miami, et cetera, are in that category. They don't necessarily want to move to the United States permanently and practice law there. But having an LLM from a prominent, well-ranked American law school gives them a very valuable credential, no matter where they end up, right? And that kind of international wherewithal and intercultural wherewithal that is validated, that is certified by that LLM, counts for a great deal. So many LLM graduates from U.S. law schools stay in the U.S. to pursue an SJD if they're interested in becoming a judge, if they're interested in becoming a prominent professor. They do their LLM, they complete an SJD, which is really just writing a dissertation, and then they have their doctorate, and then they go back to their home country and become a law professor, say, or a dean of a law school, or the next Raj Kumar, if that would be possible, right? So there are multiple tracks. I don't want you to think that there's only that one track of completing the LLM, sitting for the bar, and staying in the US. That's possible. That is one track. But another, probably more popular track is getting the LLM and going back to your home country. And then you go back to your home country as an American educated lawyer. Does that make sense? And then you have these connections with your classmates, your schoolmates from that LLM year that will stay with you for the rest of your lives. The other thing that I will share with you that I meant to share during my initial remarks is that one of the other things that's wonderful about American legal ed is that it is international. In order to be a lawyer today, we all have to be international in our scope. And one of the things that a lot of American law schools do very well, and particularly schools like Seattle, that are in capitals of multicultural diversity, is that we have students from all walks of life. Over a third, I'd say 37, 38% of our students are racial and ethnic minorities. Many of them are first generation from other countries. I, as dean, was born in another country, right? So we are quite a diverse international law school in the makeup of our community. So those of you who we will be lucky enough to welcome into our LLM class will have as classmates students from Europe, from Africa, from all over Asia, from Latin America, speaking 45, 46 languages total. So that itself comes with a tremendous educational benefit and social benefit.
I would like to add, students are new, I would like to tell you some 80 plus JGLS graduates have qualified New York Bar and California Bar so far, in my knowledge. So 80 graduates from JGLS are already qualified American lawyers. There are many on that track. It may be 100 plus. I mean, we are not maintaining a proper record. But last 5 years, I have met at least 50 of our, and they are working in big places.
That's a great
Baker
statistic.
McKenzie,
Yeah.
White and Case,
Wonderful.
multiple offices.
Wonderful
So
statistics.
the topmost firms in the US. So there are quite a few, and then many are in that process also.
Yes.
So I don't know about the Washington DC bar, but few other bars also. I think
Yes.
the bar in Arizona,
Yes.
in few more states they
Yes.
have qualified.
Yes.
So
That's a very, very good
that's
point.
I mean, you'll find a lot of your seniors.
Yes, that is a very, very good point. It is important to understand that you do not have to earn your LLM in the state where you wish to sit for the bar. So we actually have a lot of students who come to us and then want to sit for the bar in another state. That's completely possible and done, and even a popular thing to do. I graduated from a law school in Massachusetts and a member of the District of Columbia Bar, right? So that happens. And so we have students who graduate from Seattle University School of Law and do not sit for the Washington State Bar. They sit for the Massachusetts Bar, the Wisconsin Bar, or the Georgia Bar, depending on where they want to settle and practice law. The other way that it works in the states is that depending on the state pair, once you're a member of one state bar, it will be possible for you to waive in to a number of other states. So I sat for the Massachusetts bar and passed it, and then was able to waive in to the District of Columbia bar, meaning that I didn't have to sit for that bar anew. So that's something that's also very convenient. Now, it doesn't always work between certain states. Florida, for example, and California are notoriously difficult to waive into because they're such popular destinations. But different other permutations work very well.
Yeah, we are a little short of time. We have to wind up, but I have a question, Dean.
Yes.
But before that, why Dean Varona's words should be reassuring is that a school with a heavy focus on social justice, a school with a heavy focus on inclusion and diversity, that's going to broaden your learning experience because you can expect a similar ecosystem even in your classrooms, an ecosystem whereby mutual respect, human dignity will be highly valued. So that should be the takeaway from that. But Dean, you mentioned about you probably consciously use this word, you educate the person. You
Yes.
use the word student.
Yes.
There must be something in your pedagogy about that.
Well, it probably has to do with myself being a product of Jesuit education. I'm a graduate of Boston College and Georgetown University, both of which are Jesuit universities. And so cura personalis is at the core of Jesuit pedagogy. It's the education of the entire person, meaning that we aren't just about transferring knowledge from one brain to the other. We are about equipping you with doctrine and theory and information, but also growing you as an ethical, moral citizen of the world. The Jesuit motto that we produce men and women for others, and we encourage our graduates to go out there into the world and light it on fire for change, for the better, to change the world for other people, right? For the better. That's something that we strongly believe in. And it doesn't mean that we're only advocating jobs in the public interest, but it also means that we are wanting you to go out there and no matter where you end up, to do the best that you can to improve the world, whether it's working at one of these major prestigious private law firms or serving as a judge or an elected official or a public interest advocate. That we are educating you in order to make the world a better place.
That matches pretty well with our global ambition.
Good.
So if there are no further questions, we can afford one more if someone really has a... All right, our time has already ended at 4 o'clock. So thank you very much, all of you, for
Thank you,
joining.
everybody.
Thank
What
you,
a
Dean.
delight.
That was a very
Thank you.
thoughtful
Thank you,
presentation.
thank you. And there are more brochures and thumb drives here if you would like any, and we have some magazines available up here. Oh, was this the 50th